Christ alone, my hope is found. He is my light, my strength, my song. Welcome, dear viewer. Again, we are looking at sexual purity, and we had stopped at a point whereby we were highlighting some of the sex perversions that are there in the society today. And I want to give a chance to Madam Judy, who is well informed about some of these perversions that are affecting our young people. Madam Judy.
It is quite a wide area when you have to look at it. And some of the perversions begin with use of sexually explicit media. And one of the big items that come out of this is what we call pornography. And you know, pornographic materials have been distributed all over the place. You know, it's a big industry as we speak. There are, you know, live productions, you know, where these days you will have what we call nude clubs. And it is done lively. You know, the other things would be movies, others would be videos. Some will come in form of music, others would come in magazines. One of the very interesting research I came across recently is a research that was done in the US. They were doing a research on addictions. And one of the addictions, you know, the use of drugs. Though we think drug use is so huge, they found out that in the US, 1.4 million people are drug addicts. But the interesting part of the survey showed that 14 million people were addicted to pornography. And so they were titling that item, the new drug, the new addiction in the US. So pornography is a big industry. The other thing is flirting, or suggestive touching, or language, you know, emojis, what we call sexting, you know, provocative dressing, which lead to fornication and adultery. Some other perversions include immorality, what we call fornication, which would be casual sex or sex orgies. We have an increase of what we call sex parties, where, you know, people just come in and, you know, you are here, let's do what, you know, with anyone. We recently had what we call Project X in Kenya. The other thing is impurity or uncleanness of the flesh, where you defile your body with inordinate objects. For example, what we call sex toys. We recently had something called Samantha, and it excited many. We have sex toys, you know, we have other things like lesbianism, homosexuality, you know, and the last one in that line is what we call masturbation. Wow. Many young people are struggling with masturbation. You know, when you talk about masturbation, is where somebody wants to fulfill their own sexual desires, and they would use anything to do that. And the final thing is what we call greed, you know, where because of the love of money, you can misuse your body. What we call prostitution. In Nairobi, we have a place called K Street, Koinange Street. It's known to have prostitutes, not let alone K Street. So many streets in this town. One evening, we were walking with my husband in town, and, you know, some ladies were there dressed in miniskirts, and they were just, you know, they are looking for men, and the main purpose is to get money out of it. What a form of indignity.
Wow. This is quite humbling that the list is big. And she talks about pornography, which is a huge industry. In fact, it said that 40% of what is in the website is pornography alone, porn alone. And of course, we are picking these things from the West, actually. You have been in the US, Pastor Reverend, and can you just do a comparison? What is in the West? What is it that we are picking? How can we go about it?
Yeah, the truth is we are now living in a global village. And from the general view is we tend to think that everything that comes from the West is really good. I had a friend from Europe, and he says when they're doing an advert of, say, they're advertising a soap, I mean, somebody's bathing and he's just bathing as in Adam's suit, the way he was born, and it's put on the screen.
Wow.
So whether you like it or you don't like it, you'll see it. And now it's become normal. It's not become part of them. Things like when you're talking about homosexuality, it's normal. People tend to say we are born this way. But when we begin to borrow that, at the end of the day, it begins to affect our society, it affects our young people. Now with the introduction of these smartphones, etc., you realize that what is in the West is now just part of us. And we should not actually be talking about the West, we should just be talking about us. Because the West is already here with us. If it's perversion, we need to deal with it head on, at all corners, in school, at home, wherever we are, in every social gathering, be it in church or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, that's quite a big thing. Prince, can you cite some of the examples of these perversions from your level? Do you see them? Do you see them anywhere, either in school or even at home?
Yeah, this perversion are all over, and one example is about the masturbation is real in our schools.
Wow.
And also lesbianism is real in our most of our boarding schools, and also in our school. I can't just lie; they are there, and it's a big challenge. And to be able to identify these people and discriminate them is also a big challenge to us. And I remember sometimes there's some guys were found and they were almost being chased away from the school because they were trying to bring a culture that is not of the school, going against the school rules.
Wow.
So these things are real and they're happening each time, each day. Even when we are speaking right now, these things are happening in our schools and in our homes. Now, as we have been closing, we have just been closed the school. Many of us are going for raves, party. We call them parties and bash that I'm back at home, so come we celebrate together. Are we going that place to get something that is beneficial to us? No. It's all about girls, men coming together, doing what they feel like they can do best when they are young, not minding that they are destroying their life with those kind of things that they are engaging themselves in.
Sherin, I just wanted to touch on some examples of some young people, maybe boys or girls that you knew, and probably they have dropped out of school, or maybe through these sexual perversions. Where is their life today?
Their lives, let me just say that destroyed, because with that kind of a life, there is no future.
Okay.
And let me begin by highlighting maybe some of the things that made them to destroy their lives, the sexual perversion things. Now, the main issue that I observed is the dressing code. Okay. Now you find someone, maybe it's games, it's cool, yeah? Now it's games time. We are wearing the games kit and everything. Now, a lady comes, our school is a mixed school. Now, a lady comes with maybe a shirt and it's written, "Kiss me."
Wow.
It's written, "Kiss me." And we are a mixed school. Now, we are like age mates. Yeah? There is that, enjoying one another, now a guy comes and asks, "Your shirt is written, 'Kiss me.' Can I do so?" Now that those games, and you find that now the issue of flirting comes in. Now our dressing code speaks a lot of whom we are. Now, if you wear a shirt or maybe or rather a t-shirt that is written, "Kiss me," what do you expect the opposite sex to react on that logo? You see? Okay, now, the next thing I observed is smartphones. She talked about smartphones, and a lot of youths in Kenya today, they want phones, and not just phones, but smartphones. They want phones that can go into internet. They just want to. Now, when I go to boarding schoolers, they want to WhatsApp, Facebooking, Instagramming. Now they want to, like, how do I put this? They want to make that bond that they lost when they were in school. Instead of reading, you can read your Bible, you can read your notes. They're, let me just say, like, they're Kesha with their phones. A student is that Kesha.
Yes.
Up to maybe 2 in the morning, they are Facebooking, sexting, WhatsApping, Instagramming, chatting, and everything. And you can maybe find a guy telling them, I've really missed you and everything. Why can't you come and we catch up? Let me take you out, those issues. And now in the process of taking out, they find themselves backsliding and everything, and now pregnancy.
Wow.
Now they drop out of school and they lead a miserable life, and that's just the end of it.
Wow. Wow. That's reality, dear viewer, of what is happening. If you think that boy, that girl out in that bedroom is asleep, you need to check again. Even at midnight, you wake up to just go and see. Unfortunately, they are always very, very smart, and they will always pretend that they are sleeping, while in the real sense, they were just chatting the previous few minutes. Hey, madam, this is big, eh? This is a big issue that we need to talk about in the Let's Reason Together. And not only should you wait here, you also need to reason together, even as a family. Even as a family, you reason together. Even as a church, as a youth group, there is need for this information to pass across. Madam, what are some of the outcomes, consequences of this texting, sexting, pornography, all these things?
Oh, I think I remember when I joined the university, our finance officer told us one statement which has never left my mind, saying freedom without responsibility is meaningless. You know what, young people, somebody defined that adolescence as people who want the rights of children and the privileges of adults. And for every young person, what we need to remind ourselves is that we need to set boundaries. Set a boundary. There is something we call personal space. In nursery school, you say, my space. My space is very important.
Sure.
I have to keep my space. How do I use the internet? How do I relate with my brother?
True.
How far is too far? One thing leads to another.
Yeah.
You touch fire, don't
It will burn you.
Yeah. So some of the consequences we realize, like our sister said, find girls get pregnant. You'd find cases of, after pregnancy, you start thinking of issues like abortion. We've had, sexually transmitted diseases that have come out of this. We talk about, use of sex toys. There are very scary stories that we've had, of people who used sex toys and it harmed them. Some years ago, there was a story of a girl who used a banana, and she didn't know how to express, that it got stuck. So rotting happened, and before long, she was dead and gone. We've heard of cases of erectile dysfunctions, among boys being involved in homosexual acts. And so later when you think you're ready to get married and you are reforming, you have to go to the doctor for surgery for this dysfunction to be corrected. There are so many, talk about pornography. You get so addicted and you realize the world is not real. And because of all these addictions, you end up, some people have ended up in depression. And depression leads to suicide. The next thing, death. So I better choose to make good decisions when I'm young. That I was saying, this is a boundary. Every time, as a young person growing up, even us who are older, we are not safe. These perversions are bombarding. Even the marriage, you heard of sponsors. These are realities. So when the consequences come, we better make decisions before they do. So we have to make decisions ahead of time so that we don't burn in that fire.
Reverend, Madam is talking, and of course looking at what is happening, especially in the young people, and you realize now there's a lot of consequences that are affecting. If there is a young person there that is engaging in some of these perversions, don't wait for any miracles to happen so that things will be better for you. What she's talking about is what really will happen. Just in a brief, is this only affecting the young people? When we talk about social media, is it also affecting maybe even the higher cadre of people, the adults, the young, those in the youth, in the churches and all that?
No, it's affecting people everywhere. Pastors are affected, church leaders are affected, grown-ups are affected, parents at home, they're affected. And some of the young people, they pick up from that. Yes, he was just passing by, he picked your phone and he perused through, oh, so daddy watches this, so this thing must be good. So you realize that what happens to the adults now is affecting the young people. And if they'll only be able to peep just a little bit, then you can imagine the magnitude of all that. Yeah, so it's all over, and we have to handle it. Definitely, if we have to raise up a generation that goes beyond all this. This is the time. We can't wait.
Wow. Dear viewer, we are still in there, and this topic is a big thing that we need to really take care of, listen to, and be in a position to even find ways out to overcome all these perversions. The list is huge. The list is huge. Maybe when we come back, we'll begin from a point of even the contraceptives, and then we look at how is it that we can come out of this. Keep listening and see.
In Christ alone, my hope is found. He is my light, my strength, my song. This